Hello and welcome back. Today's been a little crazy for me, so I'm excited to do some math. My dog got bit by another dog and it was just the whole thing. So now I'm going to do math though, so I'm excited. So today we're going to be doing Module 6, Lesson 3. And our goal today is to be able to create a scaled bar graph. We talked yesterday about how we can take tape diagrams and make them vertical, and how that's going to help us be able to make bar graphs. So today we want to be able to make bar graphs. We're going to focus a little bit on what that means to have a scaled bar graph, because that's an important part of making a bar graph, and we're going to talk a lot about that today. Let's look at the application problem for today. Just a reminder, I want you guys to try this problem out. So after I read it, give it a shot, pause the video, keep it up on your screen so that you can still see it, okay? It says the vertical tape diagrams show the number of fish in Saul's pet store. A, find the total number of fish in tank C. Show your work. B, tank B has a total of 30 fish. Draw the tape diagram for tank B. You see it's missing here. And C, how many more fish are in tank B than in tanks A and D combined? So go ahead and pause the video, go ahead and try. There's 3 steps to this problem. I'm going to go ahead and jump into my explanation for this problem. So the first thing that I want you to notice, they have a title for this, the number of fishes in Saul's pet store. The first question asks me to find the total number of fish in tank C. And so I'm going to put a little A right here while I'm showing my work. And I can see that there's a bunch of different pieces of this tape, this unit. It's 5. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. And so there's a couple ways that I can do this. I can count by 5s. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. And then I can answer 25 total fish. Another way that I could show this is I could write a multiplication problem. I can say that I did 5 times 5 because there were 5 units and each unit was 5. And 5 times 5 is equal to 25. So that's a different way that I could show my work for that same problem. I'm going to change colors for B. Let's go with red. It says tank B has a total of 30 fish. Draw the tape diagram for tank B. And I'm going to draw this tape diagram vertical. Okay, I switched colors so you can see this part a little bit better. So I need to go to 30. So here's 5. You need to add another 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, running out of room, 30. So this is my vertical tape diagram. It got a little messy here. I can maybe go back and clean it up a little bit if I want to. Make it look like one big piece of tape. But there it is, a vertical tape diagram that has 30 with the increments of 5. Now part C, we'll switch back to blue. How many more fish are in tank B than in tanks A and D combined? So the first thing I need to do is I need to combine tanks A and tank D. I'm going to circle these ones. Tank A and tank D. And it's telling me that there are more fish in B, and I need to know how many more. So the very first thing that I want to do for this is I need to figure out how many are in tank A and tank D. So there are 5, 10, 15 fish in tank A, and there are 10 fish in tank D. I add those together, and there's 25 fish if I combine them. But that's not where the question ends, because it asks how many more are in tank B than in A and D combined. And so we know from the problem that there's 30 fish in tank B. So when we're trying to find the difference between two numbers, we're going to take the bigger number and subtract the smaller number. And we know that B is bigger because it told us and asked us how many more. So 30 minus that 25 is going to equal 5. And so there are 5 more fish in tank B. So I've answered every part of my question. I've used a complete sentence for this last part. I like to put my answers in boxes, so I'm going to go ahead and put this part in a box. This tape diagram doesn't really fit in a box, and I can put this in a box as well. There's 25 total fish in tank C. We're going to take this information and we're going to turn it into a bar graph. Now, essentially what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking this and adding it here. Oh, look at that. That's the little, okay. We're going to be moving it over here, but it's going to look just a little bit different. We're going to add some other things. Instead of having these little boxes that each are marked, we're just going to have one big bar. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look. So here I have a grid, and I'm going to take that information that I had from the previous problem, and I'm going to use purple. So going back and looking at the previous problem, I know that tank A had 15. How do I show 15? Well, we're going to do something called creating a scale. And the scale is these little marks. How big of a jump do we want each one to be? Do we want this to go from 0 to 1, 0 to 2, 0 to 100? And when we're talking about that gap that we're creating, that's our scale. So how much each section, each equal section goes up by. So in this case, I'm going to start my graph at 0. So that's right here at the bottom. And all of these numbers were 5s. I did them in groups of 5. And so I'm going to use that same idea from the tape diagram of how much does each piece of tape represent. Now I'm going to look at how much each one of these little squares is going to represent. And my scale is going to be 5. So this goes up by 5. 5 more puts us at 10. Another 5 puts us at 15. Another 5 puts us at 20. 25, 30, and up here at the top, 35. And I can go ahead and label this. I don't know how well I'll be able to write sideways. Let's give it a shot. I'm going to label this so that we know this is the number of fish. I'm going to use the number symbol. Number of fish, so that I know that that's what this is talking about over here. Now tank number A had 15. So I'm going to go up 5, 10, 15 up to here. And I want to outline this whole bar. You see how it's creating a bar that I have outlined? I'm going to come back and shade it once I've got all of them filled in. It just saves me a little bit of time. Tank B had 30 fish in it. So in this case, I'm going to fill up this bar starting at 0, and this bar is going to be a lot longer than the other one. It's going to go all the way up to 30. Okay, we outline it, come all the way back down. So there it is. It might be a little hard to see. I'll try to make it a little thicker. In fact, I've got some technology. Why not just make it thicker? Okay. For tank C, I had 25, so we want to go up to 25. This time I went up to where 25 was and then drew the line down. Makes it sometimes a little easier to follow it. I like that thicker line. Go back in and fill these other ones in. Tank D, I want you to try to, tank D was at 10. So where do you think it's going to go up to? Let's see. Here's where 10 is. So if I go across and follow that line, it's going to go right up to here. So now I've marked off where it is and I can fill in the rest of my bar. The last one, tank E, was 20 fish. So I'm going to go up to this point and fill in the rest. Okay. Now, this label down here is telling me that it's tanks. You'll notice I don't have a title up here. Let's see, did it switch the thickness of my pen back? It did. So I don't remember the guy's shop. It's Sal's Pet Store. And it's the number of fish in Sal's Pet Store. We're going to use that same title. Number of fish in Sal's Pet Store. It's a long title. And title is going to give us some information about what we're talking about. This down here, they call this an axis going across. So this is we'll call it the left-right axis right now. So the left-right axis is telling us the tanks, and the up-down axis is telling us the number of fish. And we can just look at this and kind of figure it out. How much, it's just a very visual way of sharing it. I'm going to go ahead and shade these in so that it's a little bit easier to see. So now it's just really standing out to us. We've got it outlined, we've got it colored in, and it's very visual. And we're going to talk about how we can compare these. Now, what makes this a scaled bar graph, that was back to our objective of being able to create a scaled bar graph. You can see the bars, they're purple. The scale is this part on the side, telling me how much each one of these lines represents. It could be just that each line equals to 1, but then I'd need a much bigger bar graph in order to show this same information, because 30 fish, it's going to take a lot of these squares to get all the way up to 30. Now, what if I change the scale? Same information, different scale. That's what I'm going to do next. I've got this same chart, but this time, let's do the scale of 10. So each time I go up, I'm starting here at 0. This is going to be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, all the way up to 70. The scale of your bar graph is important because if you make the scale too big, like I'm going to do right here, the information is going to be really small. But if you make your scale too small, it's not going to fit on the graph, or you're going to need a massive piece of paper for it. So you'll have to look at the data that you've collected and see what scale would be good for this. And we'll talk more about that later. So tank A, it had, let me switch my color, get my thick pen back. It had 15 fish in it. So now I've got a problem, because if I go up, here's 10, here's 20. What do I do? Well, just like a number line, 15 is going to be in between 10 and 20. So I'm just going to draw a line here. So my scale still stays the same, but you can see that information doesn't end on one of those lines. It doesn't have to. Those lines are just there to help us. Tank B was at 30. 30, it does have a line, so I'm just going to copy that little line, draw the rest of this in, finish my bar. Tank C had 25. Again, here's 20, here's 30, no 25. But I know that 25 is halfway in between 20 and 30, so I'm going to draw a line across here, right in the middle. And sometimes you might be estimating where it is, but luckily 25 is right in between 20 and 30. Tank D had 10. That one ends right on a line, so I can just put that one right there. And tank E has 20. Now, this scale might be a little bit small. I can still read my data, but it would be a good size if he had one really big fish tank that had like 60 fish in it, because then I could take it all the way up here, and that could be another bar that I have. And it's a good comparison. We can see that tank would be much larger than the other ones. Do that. I'm going to go ahead and color it in so that you guys can see it just a little bit better so it stands out. And we're going to go back and forth for a second looking at these two bar graphs, because they're both bar graphs sharing the same information. I don't have all my labels and my title on this one. They're displaying the same information. The scale is what's different though. And that's kind of our goal, is we want to understand what is a scaled bar graph. So in both examples, each line had the same interval or same amount between each jump, 10, 20, 30. And the previous one, it was fives, 5, 10, 15, 20. If I look at any one piece of data, like tank C, for example, I can see it's 25 fish. If I go to this one, tank C, it's somewhere in between 20 and 30, and it looks like it's supposed to be about halfway in between, so we would guess 25. And so it's still sharing us the information, it just might not be as easy to tell, or we might not be as accurate. Okay? So the scale just means that each jump is an equal value jump, just like we had on tape diagrams. Now, we're going to take our tape diagram and we're going to turn it on its side. So we can use a number line to compare them. You can have vertical or horizontal bar graphs. There's advantages to different ones. It's kind of just how you want to share the information. And so we're going to take that same information and we're going to put it on here. So this will now be the third time. I'm going to switch to blue this time. Keep my line nice and thick. Maybe not as thick. Now, tank A, again, was 15. I'm going to use an increment of 5 on this one. So each scale is 5. Oh, forgot to write these before I switched to my thick marker. So each one is 5, 25, 30, 35. Tank A had 15. Oh, and this is 0. So I'm going to go to 15, and I'm going to fill in my bar just like I did before. Tank B had 30, so I'm going to find where 30 is. Mark that off. Finish my bar. So this bar graph is essentially the same as that first one that we had, but I've turned it on its side. Tank C was 25. I think it's really fun to make these bar graphs. Just, it's like coloring and math combined. Tank D had 10. And tank E had 20. I also like organizing things. You wouldn't know it looking at my classroom, but I really like organizing things. And once you get everything in its place, oh, it's such a good feeling. Okay, we're going to shade this in, and then we're going to talk about our line below us. I'm just going to do a quick little shade. All right, now back to our line. You'll notice I have a number line down here. I'm just going to take these labels and I'm just going to put them right down here. So, oh, my pen is still nice and thick. Let's actually maybe make it a little thinner. I'm going to undo our last little mark. So right here, we have 0. Up here, we've got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and finally 35 on this number line. And I'm going to go ahead and mark where these tanks are on the number line. So the first one that comes up looks like it's tank D, and it's right here. So I'm going to label this with a D. Then my next one is tank A. So I'm going to mark it right here, tank A. Then tank E. Let's see, we don't have, oh, tank C is here. And then finally, at the very last spot here, we have tank B. And I can use this number line to clearly see tank B is the largest, tank D is the smallest, and this is just showing it on a number line. Okay, now last, This is the first problem of the problem set. And you'll notice they're taking this is called a table of information, and they're making it into a bar graph. And so the table shows the number of students in each class. Use the table to color the bar graph. The first one's been done for you. So they already filled in. There were 9 students in baking. If I look over here at this scale for the scaled bar graph, it looks like the scale goes up by 2. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So since there were 9, they put it in between 8 and 10, right in between. So if I were to do the next one, I'm going to do it in blue so it stands out. Sports. There were 16 students in sports class. So here's my sports one, and I want to go up to this 16 point. Now, the 16 is matched up with this line. That's the idea. So if it's on this line, it is equal to 16. So I'm going to put my line right there. That is 16. I'm going to fill in the rest of my box. So now it creates a bar because it goes all the way down to 0, always, always, all the way down to 0. Chorus is at 13. That's in between 12 and 14, so I'm going to have to cut this in half. Fill in the rest of my bar. My lines are a little sloppy. I'm trying to follow the line that they have, but I'm not doing a great job today. And then in drama, there was 18, so I'm going to fill that out. And one thing that I've noticed as we've been creating these bar graphs that I like, that helps make it easy to see the information, is that they leave a space in between each category. That makes it really easy to see it. Now, they're going to ask us some more questions about these bar graphs, but that's just how we make the bar graph. That's the main thing I want you guys to be able to do as you're practicing, is creating the bar graph itself. And so I've made these bar graphs, and now I can answer questions about the information. So if they say which class has the most, sure, I could look at this and I could see which one has the greatest value. But if I already have a bar graph and they say which class has the most number of students, I would say, well, the drama class does. Which one has the least? The baking class, which I took a baking class in junior high, and it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. So I don't know why people weren't signing up for baking classes here, but they should have been, because it's a really good skill to have. Well, I hope you guys got as much out of this lesson as I did. I really like making bar graphs and understanding what a scaled bar graph, that the increments are all the same, and it's a really important skill to understand and know when you're looking at data and when you're creating data. So I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. I hope you're able to do the problem set. If you don't understand something or if you need some help, just let me know. Otherwise, I will see you back here again tomorrow, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.